affirmation today is, I am the power to accept change. And we know we talk about change a lot here in our fellowship. And we focus a lot on initiating change, changing within, changing our thinking, changing our thoughts, so that we aren't negatively affected by the things happening in the world around us. Today I want to talk about accepting the changes that life presents us with, and the often more difficult task of making change in our lives, which we really don't want to. The kind of change that is difficult and often very painful. If we can repeat that 3 times and affirm. I am the power to accept change. I am the power to accept change. I am the power to accept change. And we also have our question. The question today is, how do I prepare to accept change? And I think that's a very poignant question. A while back, I went to a management seminar, and the speaker there made a great observation, which has really stuck with me for a long time, and it seems very poignant. And that is that when the pain of staying in the same situation becomes more painful than the pain of making the change, then it's time to make that change. When changes such as, having to move to a different home from one we're comfortable in, or having to maybe open our home to others and having our space and privacy changed, those things usually happen. That's kind of changed imposed on us. And these are the types of change that changing our way of thinking about can be very helpful. The changes that we know we need to make but put off because we think the pain will be too much for us, that's the type of change that we do have the power over. And it's often the most difficult part of the human experience. Some examples are perhaps we've often been in situations where we have a child or a sibling or a family member or a loved one who we often over-enable, and we continue to do that because the pain of seeing them without seems unbearable. So we avoid making that change, even though a good part of us knows that that's a change we need to make. People often end up in relationships that they don't bring them joy anymore, but they stay in them because the change seems so painful. Often people are in work situations that they come home miserable from every day, and it just seems like it's easier to stay there because it's less painful than making the change that we have to make. Those are situations where we're not really being forced to make a change, and the fear of the pain of change seems to keep us in the same place, so we end up staying there. But interestingly, the solution is very similar to the solution that we use when we know that change is imposed on us, when we don't have anything to do about that, and that is to change your way of thinking. See the good and the joy in the situation where the change needs to be made. First, you change your way of thinking, connect with the power and the presence of God, and you make the change. The person who we might be taking care of, sort of enabling, you see yourself as giving that person the opportunity of independence, rather than focusing on the pain of where they're going to be if you're not doing that anymore. So if you see that person, envision them in a wonderful, happy place, joyful with their independence, that's a great mechanism to use to overcome the pain of making that change. And the same stands true for the relationship that you're in. Visualize happiness, your happiness. Give the same to the other person. Visualize them being happy and serene, whether you can work out the situation or you do have to make that change. So don't focus on the pain of the change, but focus on the happiness, the end result. Change your way of thinking. The same with our work situations. A lot of times we stay because it just is more comfortable than the change, but visualize yourself in a place where you're coming home at the end of the day happy because you've enjoyed what you've done. If you begin to see that and visualize that, it becomes more powerful than the pain of the change itself. So in these situations, and there's a myriad of situations that we need to make a change, but we don't make the change for the fear of pain, the focus should be on changing your way of thinking, which is something we talk about a lot here in the fellowship with regard to changes imposed on us that we don't have any control over. But these changes that you do have control over, rather than letting the fear of the change or the fear of the pain of the change cripple you and prevent you from moving forward. If we can change our way of thinking and see the positive side and then move forward. There is always great benefit in that. Because we have the power to get the best of change. Change doesn't have to have the power to get the best of us. If we don't make these changes for fear of the pain, the reality is that one day the pain of not changing is going to be overwhelming and crippling anyways. So if you can change your way of thinking, become more positive in your way of thinking, and see the result that you know is the best outcome, visualize that and make it the reality, then of course you can overcome that pain and that worry about making the change in the first place. So as many of you know, one of our main goals here at Angelus Fellowship is to show people how to live happier, fuller, healthier, and more prosperous lives as a perfect child of God. So go forth and live your best life today. Don't be afraid of change, because as I was talking about, we know that there are different kinds of changes in life change that's imposed on us that we don't have any control over. And there's the kind of change that we do have control over, where we need to initiate that change. And unfortunately, a lot of times, the fear of the pain that that change is going to impose on us cripples us and keeps us from making that change, even if it's for the better. When it's imposed on us, sometimes we're not happy, but again, if you change your way of mind and get ready to accept it, then you certainly are a lot better off. So as you're going throughout your week, occasionally, if you get a chance, stop and think and ask yourself, how do I prepare to accept change?